Day 2 of the NBA draft has come to conclusion, and there was only one pick for the Utah Jazz that ended up going anyway, and it was the one and only Kyle Filipowski. And there are some interesting rumors going on in the background as to why he ended up falling so far in the draft and why it's kind of ironic that he ended up going to the Utah Jazz at the end of it all. But for the day to end off so quickly and for the Utah Jazz to get a player that could be a really important offensive piece that can also hold his own on defense for many years to come once he reaches a certain peak in his development, I think that this was an elite move, and I will be breaking down his controversies for his off-the-court issues, as well as what makes him such a coveted prospect that should have been picked in the lottery of this year in this video today. With that being said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about him before we get into it. The best justice that I can give to Kyle Filipowski is actually just talking about how good of a player he was, because he did come from the blue blood school of Duke University. Standing at 6'11" and 248 pounds officially, he really looks the part of a stretch big, and he put that on full display in his 2 years at the university. Both seasons playing 36 games. The first season, he looked pretty solid, but the second season, he really stepped up in some key areas. To run down the numbers real quick, he averaged 15.1 points, 8.9 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 0.7 blocks, 1.3 steals, and 2.5 turnovers in his freshman year at the university, while shooting 44.1% from the field and 28.2% from three on 3.4 attempts. He also did manage to shoot 76.5% from the free throw line on 4.7 attempts, so that showed a promising ability to get a more reliable shooting stroke, and coming into college he was known for having that ability to have that developed into his game. Coming into this season, again, he also played 36 games, but he upped his production and also upped his efficiency, which was the most important part of his game. He boosted his points from 15.1 to 16.4, rebounds went down by 0.6 to 8.3. He also averaged a high of 2.8 assists per game to go along with 1.5 blocks, 1.1 steals, and only 2.1 turnovers. The more impressive part, though, is the fact that on effectively the same number of field goal attempts, he managed to shoot 50.5% from the field, and on 3.1 three-pointers per game, he ended up shooting 34.8% from three. But the lone blemish remains to be his free throw percentage, because ironically enough, he shot 4.7 attempts the previous year and shot relatively the same at 4.6 this past season. But instead of shooting at 76.5% or anything close to it, he actually decreased down to 67.1. I don't consider that to be a massive blemish considering how well his three-point shot ended up falling this season, but it is something to note as he goes on to that NBA level, because you don't want to have a liability from the free throw line on the floor, even though he shows the ability to hit his threes, as this season he was 34 for 112 in totality compared to his freshman year where he was 35 for 124. The fact that he ended up slipping to the 32nd pick overall is absolutely insane considering his skill set, his ability to be a passing hub to a certain degree, because he did end up working on that not just his freshman year, but his sophomore year, upping it and almost doubling his assist count and keeping his turnovers a little bit lower while doing that at the same time. He also had that three-point shot. He also was a better finisher overall. He's a sturdy rebounder, and he has the frame that will allow him to be successful at the NBA level. He's not incredibly athletic. He's not an incredible rim protector, but he is a sturdy one that is built to last. With all that in mind, you wonder, why did he manage to fall so far when the guy had numbers like this coming out of Duke University? And allegedly, according to Draft Express, they found this to be the case. And I quote, "NBA teams are talking about the fact that they had questions about his girlfriend being so much older than him. Why was he estranged from his family because of this whole situation? It's a very, very odd situation. I personally don't understand why it would cause him to drop like this into the second round." And I myself also felt this way, because it was very convoluted when it was first brought to my attention, because I just heard little rumors, oh, people don't like his girlfriend, they felt like she was grooming him. And that's a really strong accusation to put on somebody, especially considering the fact that it was put on a woman instead of a guy, which doesn't really happen that much in the public eye of things. At the same time, I ended up doing a little bit more research to dig a little bit deeper, and things got a little bit more interesting. Now, according to the information that I found, so that we can go ahead and flesh out the story just a little bit more, Kyle started dating his girlfriend when he was in high school, and there are pictures that have surfaced as far back as prom his senior year, where she was alleged to be 24 years old and he had to have been 17 or 18 years of age. Now, his mother and eldest brother have both taken to Twitter to divulge allegations about him having been groomed by the girlfriend into Mormon culture and having him cut off his personal family entirely, to the point where his oldest brother doesn't even know how to contact him without using social media. Now, some people thought that it was a little bit of a joke at the same time, because the irony is the fact that he ended up falling to the Utah Jazz at the 32nd pick overall when he was predicted to be a lottery pick, essentially, considering the fact that Utah also has a high population of Mormons. Now, at the age of 28, his girlfriend currently his mother has accused her of having planted a seed so that she can end up reaping the benefits of getting a wedding ring and cashing in on the cash cow that the young man is. If this does actually stand true and these are not simply allegations but also a fact, I can honestly completely understand why certain teams wouldn't want to take any business with this, considering the fact that the Oklahoma City Thunder knew about the Josh Giddey situation in advance because he communicated as well as he could with that front office. But when things blew up, everything hit the fan and everybody felt as though they weren't doing enough even then to properly deal with the situation. Now that that's been settled, people are still going around calling him the Giddler and making all sorts of jokes all over the board. So much so to the point where Oklahoma City just felt like it was better to put him in trade packages, especially after his performance where he basically had to get benched against the Dallas Mavericks in the playoffs this year because he was a poor floor spacer, he couldn't hit his open shots, and he couldn't defend anybody particularly well. So they sent him off and got Alex Caruso. They sent him to the Chicago Bulls, who are known recently, at least, to not be a successful franchise. So they got rid of their problems and upgraded. In the same vein, though, a lot of other executives saw the way the whole thing transpired, and they don't want any sort of situation like that on their hands. Mind you, OKC knew about the Josh Giddey situation previous to its occurrence. The fact that all teams and everybody in the public is being effectively rolled out the red carpet on the entire situation going on with Kyle Filipowski, I could understand why they would want no bearings with it. And that would be reasonable enough to take him in the second round. Myself personally, I wouldn't move up to take a guy at this caliber if this is the background noise that's going on, because I don't understand it enough. And depending on what kind of executive you happen to be, it would stand to reason that you wouldn't want to go and reach out too far to figure out what's going on, knowing whether things are actually factually inaccurate or if there's inaccuracy and lies being spread. You just don't want to sit there and attach your PR team and your organization to that name with that cost and risk at the same time. But he fell, and considering the fact that he kind of finds himself filling in a little bit of a need that the Utah Jazz actually have, he was taken. And it just so happens that Utah has the highest population of Mormon culture in the United States. I myself am very high on his play. Off-court antics aside, I love what he brings to the game. Now, by comparison, if you were to look at somebody on the Utah Jazz roster that he's very close to, I would say the closest person you can get is probably going to be a Kelly Olynyk, though I think he's a little bit less foul prone than Kelly was and a little bit better of a rim protector. Kelly obviously was known to be a great passing hub. He had the ability to shoot the three. He was a great cutter. He was a great communicator. And defensively, while he was significantly foul prone, he wasn't a slouch on that side of the ball. For Filipowski, despite him being young, he does have a really strong frame about him. He does have the shot blocking sense to be able to hold down the fort. In my personal opinion, he's just going to have to quicken up his feet just a little bit because he has been called out for having slow feet, which makes him a little bit of a liability in switch situations. But I think that's something that we can work with, considering the fact that he can shoot the three ball effectively. And that's something that we haven't been able to see Walker Kessler take well to. Obviously, Omer Yurtseven was a little bit better at that last season, at least, even though he played limited minutes compared to Walker Kessler. I think this will be a nice contrast to what we have going on with the roster, because he has a shooting sense of Kelly Olynyk, but remember we traded away Kelly Olynyk to the Toronto Raptors and turned him into a draft pick that we have right here. But I think that it's reasonable to assume that he will have to earn his minutes nevertheless, and he will be putting in a lot of work, whether it be in the summer league, whether it be in these off-season months heading into the season, into the preseason, or just fighting and duking it out with Walker Kessler, with John Collins, with all those guys in that front court to show that he's worth being put on the court out the gate, because Will Hardy made it abundantly clear towards the end of the season, while he was playing rookies trying to see what the Jazz had, there's no free eats. And I love that because he has the skill set to be an elite passing hub, to be able to stretch the floor to elite rates, and to also be a strong finisher inside. And honestly, if we're talking about a modern day 5 that can also protect the rims at a solid degree and do all that stuff on offense, sign me up. I'm here. I'm focused. I want it. Now, the part where you have the off-court situation, I'm assuming that there's going to be a conversation had between, obviously, Kyle. Maybe you involve his people. Maybe you just keep it a Kyle thing and hope that the rest of things kind of just die down as time goes on. But as long as you have that conversation with him, you understand what the ins and outs of the situations are, and he's forthcoming and just openly expressive about the situation, I don't give it too much thought, because at the end of the day, if you can stay focused on the basketball court when it matters most, you put in your work in the offseason, you do your film study, you learn from your veterans, and you are genuinely a pleasant person to be around, and you're not a cancer in the locker room, everything else is outside noise. But not every player can do that, and I think we're about to see just how much mental toughness the kid has as he makes a transition to the NBA level. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this pick if you're a Utah Jazz fan? Or if you're a fan of another team, would you have preferred he ended up going there? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe, turn on post notifications, and like the video if you enjoyed it. And as always, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. Good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.